Okay, here is another cone 5. It's still pretty hot right now. I'm going to go ahead and unload it just because the lighting is good. And it's really hot out here in Florida, so I don't think anything bad will happen to the glaze if I start unloading now. Mostly, there's going to be 2 types of clay in here. I think there's really just 2 types. Probably it's going to be Bella's Blend by High Water Clay, which is a white clay, and also Speckled Brown Stoneware by High Water also are the 2. Might be some porcelain here and there, but I think it's mostly going to be those 2. Kind of think this right here kind of warped. I think this was Bella's Blend. So it's just a kind of like off-white clay. Pretty hot here, so I'm just gonna, it kind of warped. You can see it kind of lost the round. Probably the clay itself, and when I threw it, this may have been one that I threw right on the wheel head and took off without a bat, so I kind of have issues with that. I can never really seem to get the rims to stay round when I do that, and I've tried putting something in that's round, when it's still green, to kind of put something in there to bring back the round again, but it always seems to warp it back. And it could just be the clay, because it is kind of a smooth white clay, and I've had issues with it, but it didn't crack or anything. It's not too bad, but this is Mediterranean Mist and Shino. Shino is on the inside, and then I dip down to about right there. And there is sort of like an overlap line a little bit there. So you do get that transition line. I have a few smaller things over here. I'm not even really going to bother with them too much. Just some little pendants that I do on the little stilts. So this is like a tumbler. This is kind of the look that I kind of want to be known for. Sort of kind of what I want to do more than anything else is do leaf printing. So this is Shino again. There's going to be a lot of Shino in here. I used it quite a bit in this glaze firing. It is really fantastic on Speckled Brown Stoneware. And I will get a picture of some of this, so don't worry, because I know you probably can't really see in there, but the Shino really does great things on the Speckled Brown Stoneware. This is Mottled Green Transparent by Standard Ceramic. And I use that just because it's really the only green that I have right now. I don't have that much of it. But I did get a nice transition line, which is what I was going for. So the Shino was dipped to about there. Then the Mottled Green was dipped to there. So you dip the outside glaze color, you just dip the cup in like that. Whereas I pour the Shino in, then turn it over, and then dip the rim in. And you always do, well, I don't know about with the Shino, but they say Shino first or be cursed, so I don't know if it doesn't like to be on top of other glazes, but you usually always put it underneath glazes, so that's what I've been doing. And it does seem to behave really well. And this kind of came out perfectly. So this is an iron wash, which is really nice on Speckled Brown clay. So I washed it, and it is a little darker than probably what I wanted, and then waxed it so that the glaze, of course, wouldn't adhere to the leaf print. So that this was done first. And this is just slip cast. This is actually porcelain. It's Laguna's porcelain slip, and I can't even really pick that up. It's a frog, and I use Mediterranean Mist, and it's a little bit of colonial white on top. It's not a great color for this. I've been having trouble finding something to glaze this with. It's just, it doesn't, the glazes just kind of run on it, and it's got some strange kind of almost crawling going on, a little bit of bubbling. It's kind of hard to glaze, and probably I just need to use, like Celadon glazes and real simple stuff for this sort of slip casting. This was just a reglaze. I had a little spot where there was no glaze. It's like a hand-built dragonfly. And that was actually, I'll bring that back, that's actually indigo float on here, on porcelain. Indigo float by Potter's Choice, which is a really, really bright blue. And that is porcelain. And let's see, I have a couple of glaze tests, and I'll show this too, but this is just a little heart, which will be a magnet. And this is, the glaze is Hyacinth by Laguna Rock and Sands. It's purple, but kind of like transparent. It's a transparent purple, real light color, kind of a lavender color. It's okay. It's a little bit grayish. It's not as bright as I'd hoped it would be. And you know, the nice thing about the Laguna glazes is you can just get a pound of them to try. So you can get a pound of dry glaze. So you can, you know, try it out yourself first and then get as much as you want. So that's a big advantage of their glazes. So this is some test pieces. It's a Shino test. I can't even figure out right now what it is. I think it is speckled moss over Shino. Speckled moss over Shino, and it completely lost the speckled moss, which I'm really surprised. I had to water it down, and I may have to get the other tester to show because it was really drippy. And when it came into contact with the Shino last time, it was extremely drippy. So this pretty much just looks like Shino. There's almost really no, you can see a little bit of green showing up there if the lighting is good enough. There's a little bit of green there, but pretty much just looks like it lightened up the Shino, so that's not what I was expecting. And I did just a couple of test tiles to have. Well, this is actually blue rutile. It's not my glaze, it's actually Janice's glaze. We've been talking about trying to figure out how to use blue rutile. So this is kind of interesting because I did two test tiles. I'm going to show you this other one first. This is two coats, and this is dipped into blue rutile, and it's, you know, blue rutile that you get dry and you mix yourself. So it's dipped into that twice, and that's speckled brown stoneware, which may make a difference too. So you can see it is blue, a little bit dark, and it's by Potter's Choice, by the way. It's an Amico glaze. So that's dipped twice, almost probably to there the second time. Now this one here is dipped 4 times, and there is what blue rutile is supposed to look like. At least if you go by their color tiles, you see a lot more blue than you see brown, and that's 4 times dipped into blue rutile. So I guess you really have to do a lot of coats of it, and it did not drip at all. So there it is. I guess that's how you have to do it. I'd be really afraid to dip a large piece 4 times. It did kind of drip on the back though. So probably one of those glazes where you're just not going to be able to go all the way to the very bottom of a piece, and maybe it can be the top part. It is a nice blue, kind of like a denim. I think it's showing up a little bit brighter on camera than it is in person, but it's a nice kind of dark blue breaking to brown. So I've been working on throwing a lot. I've been trying to really improve my throwing skills. One of the things that I want to make are banks, and let me see if I can get this out of here without burning my hand. It's not too bad. Get a good grip on it here. So here is piggy bank. I need to test to make sure that coins do fit in and out, and there's a cork that goes in there, which hopefully will still fit in there, because you know you throw it and you try to do it to where the cork will fit all the way in, and expecting the shrinkage to make it to where the cork will just be in there just enough. Shino on the bottom, which is kind of a lot of what I'm going to be doing, I think. Overlap line, and this is Alabaster White by Mako. It is a nice glaze. The problem I have with it, I don't know if you can pick up on camera here, there's like a section where you can see anytime you hand build something onto something else, the glaze seems to break inside of that crevice there. And you can kind of see that behind the ears, maybe. And it gives the look of that it's cracked, and I don't particularly like that look. It's kind of more rustic looking, I guess, but I'm just afraid that people will think that it's cracked. But I do like the way the glaze shows the speckled brown stoneware. I really like that look. So maybe if I can find another white that's not as flat as this, and maybe holds on to the clay more, unless maybe I just need to dip it twice, because I can kind of see it's a little different on the back of the ear than the front. Okay, there's a lot of small stuff here. I did some hand-built tiles. This is porcelain. This is P5 by High Water Clay. So this is just hand-built. It says salty kisses, sandy toes. And then I melted glass into these little pockets, and there's a little fish on there. It is crazed copper is the glaze that I use, and when you melt glass onto crazed copper, it pretty much comes out perfect every time. It always seems to pool nice. It doesn't change color, because sometimes your glazes will change the glass color, or the glass color changes the glaze. I'm not sure, but I've had some of them come out brown before. And this is an underglaze to bring out the words. I think it's called Sandstorm. It's a brown underglaze by Amico, probably one of the velvets. And the thing is that I've noticed with the crazed copper is that it doesn't mess with the underglazes too much. Like sometimes the underglazes will just float up into some glazes, like clear glazes. If it's not the right kind, it'll do that. But the crazed copper seems to work well with underglazes, so there's that. And I just have a few things like that. Another one with the fish on it. These are some magnets here. I don't know if they can be seen, but some melted glass there. And this is textured kiwi by Spectrum, and I have used that before. It's on porcelain clay. It didn't really pick up the texture very much. This will just be a magnet. Let me show you another one. Sometimes I notice that it doesn't really pull down into the texture. These ones are kind of stuck, so I may have to... I got that one. It did not break. I thought it would. So if you can see how it will pool and pick up texture, probably if you just don't put too many coats of it on. It's a really nice glaze, and I've kind of struggled with it because you can get it and dry, you know, and dip into it, but it is really a cone 5 glaze. Probably cone 6 would work if you just did flat things, but if you do it on something vertical, it runs right off the piece at cone 6. This was a cone 5 that I did, and I'm debating whether I do want to try doing cone 6 more so than 5. Since most of the clays in here are fine at that temperature, but this glaze probably wouldn't work, so I don't know if I'd really go out of my way to use this, because I would have to definitely keep it at cone 5 if I continue to use this glaze. And it does not look good on speckled brown stoneware, so I've only really ever used it on white. On speckled brown it's very dark and you don't have all this texture going on. So I did some little hand-built faces with porcelain clay, and then I just stained them. It came out kind of dark looking, but sort of interesting. I did them where you can kind of hang them up too. So I got like 3 of those. They're just sticking her tongue out there. And one more. So let's see here. This is a covered, I don't know if you can see it on camera there, but yeah, it's stuck. I knew it would be. It is a covered dish. I'm going to have to get something wooden to, could just be because it's still kind of hot. I don't see the glaze running too much. I'm going to use this here. So I just tapped on it a little bit. It was just a little bit stuck. And it's a covered dish. And it's what you call a chop pot, I guess, where you throw a covered, or a closed cylinder basically, and then you use a chopstick to cut into it. You can look at videos like John Britt has a video doing that. Van Gilder does a video doing it. So I'm not going to really go into how to do it, but you end up with, you start with one piece and you end up with the perfect cover to go on it. So I did like a little, kind of looks like a little gnome house, just because the shape of it was so strange that's pretty much what it lended itself to. I stained the little door. There's some underglaze on that. It has like a leaf. I just want to show the inside because I melted glass on the inside. And it has mottled green transparent again by standard. And you can see the melted glass there, which is kind of a nice look. So that came out good. I'll have to sand it down just a little bit. So I did another type of bank, which is a fishy bank. We'll call it a fishy bank instead of a piggy bank. And I do have to really check these out to make sure that I threw them the right way to get the cork back in there. Shino, Mediterranean mist, a little bit of colonial white on the top to give a little bit of texture. The tail has a little bit of colonial white on it. And that comes out really good doing it that way. And it glazes it on the inside as well. Because that was one thing I was worried about, is you pretty much have to dip these, otherwise you'll have no glaze on the inside. And you can clearly see inside of it, so dipping it is the way to go. And I just threw a bottle, and afterwards, you kind of have to catch it when it's not leather hard, but just before that, and you can kind of push it against the counter to get a flat base to it, and then just hand build onto it. So I have some white mugs. This would be Bella's blend, probably. And what I done here is I did that sort of like Mashimo technique where you paint an underglaze on. Was not sure how this was going to come out with the Shino. So normally you do like a clear glaze on top of it. But I wanted to do Shino. It's all Shino, inside and out. So the underglaze was right there. I did some carving into it. It's funny because the black underglaze seemed to really affect the Shino a lot. It really kind of looks almost like a wood-fired piece doing that. It's not what I was going for, but it's kind of an interesting texture. And let's see, this was a refire. I somehow had missed the glaze. You can kind of see in there where there's sort of a light color. I didn't have any glaze there, and there's a real thin coat of glaze there now. So it's a starfish mug. This may be porcelain. It kind of looks like porcelain. That was from a couple firings ago. So that worked out. Just take some of these stilts out. So I think, almost dropped it. This is what we've pretty much already seen, mottled green transparent over Shino, which is actually really, really nice looking. That's really a nice effect that you get. Mottled green transparent by Standard Ceramic over Shino by Coyote. And that's just the regular Shino. It's not, they have all kinds of Shino. This is just the regular brown Shino. That gives you that honey tone look on brown clay. So that's a nice combination. Trying to find the best combinations for Shino to use. This is what Mottled Green Transparent looks like all by itself on the Speckled Brown. It's kind of good. It's kind of a sage color. So I got one of Coyote's greens that's really, really bright, and what I was trying to do is get something that on brown would really still be kind of a lighter color, and it's called Mint, and this is Mint by Coyote, which is one of their gloss glazes, over Shino. Now the thing about that is it really has a texture to it. I don't know if you can see that, but it kind of pulled into a texture that I didn't really want. I just wanted a nice transition line. So with the Shino under it, for some reason it kind of pulled and did something weird, but I think maybe the Mottled Green Transparent was nicer than that. A little bit of bubbling on the back. A few more tiles here. This is the Textured Kiwi by Spectrum on porcelain clay. Kind of doesn't have as much definition as I was hoping it would. Sometimes you can get a lot of texture to come through with that glaze, and I'm sure it's probably just the fact that it's on porcelain is why it looks that way. It's more of a stoneware glaze. Another hand built with some melted glass in there. Okay, I had to take a little break. The heat coming out of the kiln was just too much in here. I probably should have waited a little longer to unload this, but the lighting in here right now is good, and later on when the sun goes around, it's dark in here, so I just wanted to do this about an hour sooner. I took one piece out. Let me grab that. It's a canister, which of course is hot. Let me see here. The lid of it stuck a little bit. If I can show right there, a little bit of Shino glaze on the inside did get stuck, but no, not a big deal. The piece itself, I'll have to get a picture of this because I doubt it's going to show up. So I did a starfish with some Shino, and this is that alabaster white glaze by Mako. If the camera can see this, it looks like the piece almost was about to explode. I have no idea what happened there. It does not go through to the inside at all, but it just looks like a whole big chunk of that clay was going to come off. No idea what happened. This is probably Bella's Blend high water clay, and I've had issues with this clay cracking, but I don't know, maybe I used too much water when I threw this and it was all weak right here. I don't know. I've never seen that happen before. The lid is also Shino, and I melted a little bit of glass right there, and I had never melted glass on Shino, but that's kind of a nice look. Gives it like a beachy look to it. You can also see on here where there's a break. So what happened was, when I added this was thrown this way, down like this. It's one of those lids where you throw and you pull up a little bit and get a lip to it. This was added when it's set up. This just kept cracking. I guess it's the amount of water you use with this clay, and I just could not get rid of that. I went back afterwards and tried to smooth it out. I put a little more clay on. Still, it shows up. So I don't know. I probably will never use that clay again. I just don't like it. I had a lot of issues with it in the last firing as well. So that was the end of that clay for me. That's some Bella's Blend. So I have more of this sort of Shino dip on top. This is Mediterranean Mist on the bottom. On brown clay, that is just a really beautiful glaze. It shows up like a jewel tone on brown clay as opposed to white. It's a little more of a dull, I think, on white clay. The transition line is kind of almost like a little bit purple this time. Sometimes it'll come out, you know, you'll get that much when you with the overlap, but it'll usually come out like a light brown, and it looks a little bit purple this time, which is kind of nice. It's a gone fishing mug. This is the Surf's Up mug, and these are some stamps that I have. Same glaze combination, Shino on the inside. You can kind of see the torque marks that I got when I threw it. Probably was from the collaring. Shows right up for me. Kind of looks good in a way almost. Though kind of has a wave look to it. So I'll pretend I meant to put that on there. So this is Bella's blend again. This was all cracked in here. After I had added this, it cracked. I put some Underglaze. You can still see it. It's really not good enough. And when I added the handle, it also had come away. When it got rather hard, it started to come away again. So again, Bella's blend, not for me. I'm not going to use that again. Bella can keep her blend as far as I'm concerned. Here is Hyacinth, which is a sort of transparent glaze by Laguna. It's a Moroccan Sands glaze that goes to cone 5. Very drippy. I watered it down again. Very drippy. I'd be afraid to use this too much. It's on Bella's blend. Very minute S-crack going on. You won't be able to see it, but it's very minute. And that's Shino. One more mug here. This one is Shino and Alabaster White by not Coyote, but Mako. Alabaster White is very matte, very dry feeling. Kind of a nice look. Gone fishing mug. I think I'm going to start putting Underglaze in that. I'm not sure why I didn't do it this time, but I wiped the glaze away. It still kind of looks like it's glazed though. Needs some black Underglaze there, I think. So that's what I will do. And that's on Speckled Brown. This is a slip cast mold that I have. This it does tend to crack on the inside, but it doesn't come through. And this is that Hyacinth, which is like a purple, but it just looks brown. It's okay. It looks brown. That's a porcelain slip, so it behaves really different than everything else. Here's a test tile. Oasis by Coyote, which I've had forever, and it's a very thick blue glaze over Shino. Kind of nice. I have never done this over Shino. I don't know why, but that's actually pretty good. That's a nice look. It's a very difficult glaze to use because it is so thick. It's one of these glazes, it doesn't matter how much water you put in, anything like that. It has to be like, you know, deflocculated or flocculated. I forget which one you do to thin it, but that's what it really needs. So I really don't use it that much just because when you put it on, it is so thick that it's just so hard to glaze. Let's see. Colonial White over Shino. Colonial White by Laguna. It covers the Shino up pretty much. Looking for glazes that really react with the Shino so you get a nice transition. And that's that Alabaster White over Shino. At least I think that's what that is. It just says A. I think it must be Alabaster White. I kind of probably didn't put a very thick coat on. It just looks lost. Didn't do anything. This is just Shino by itself because I wanted to have a tile that showed what it looked like. And it's only a single dip. If you double dip, you will get a little bit more interest to it. Let's see, another one is Mediterranean Mist over Shino. Mediterranean Mist is by Standard Ceramic. It's a really nice blue that we just saw on the other mug there. Over Shino, one dip, you know, you just get a little bit of a hazy blue look. It's kind of nice. This is the mint. Oh no, I'm wrong. Speckled moss. Okay, this is a glaze that I really would like to use. Speckled moss is by Laguna, Moroccan Sands. I got 1 pound of it. The first test I did, it was so thick that there was a big glaze line. So I watered it down a little bit. Pretty much perfect now. It's a beautiful, kind of antique looking green, almost tourmaline kind of look to it. It's a satin glaze, but it is really spectacular. So now I need to do more testing with this to see if I can get, to work with Shino, because it kind of got really runny on me before. It's nice. I recommend that if you're looking for a satin kind of antique green. And I did hyacinth on speckled brown. Does a little bit of purple showed up. I'm surprised. I thought it would be just brown. It's a transparent glaze, so I think I said the wrong thing on this. This is that mint. I think I said it was mottled green transparent, but this is actually mint by Coyote. They're, one of their gloss glazes. It's a green, so that's the mint by itself. I thought it was mottled green transparent, which is what this is, mottled green transparent. Looks pretty similar, but I kind of do like this better. So that's the mint. Mint green, and I have another covered dish down here. Let's see how this went. So this is Oasis by Coyote. Dipped, overlapped onto the Shino. Shino was down first, so Oasis up to here. And Shino on the inside, and you get that nice reduction look because it's a covered dish, and that's pretty fantastic looking on the inside. I'll have to take a picture with the cover on. I just did a like a loop handle. Some greenware, some more banks in the making there. Covered like a canister with a dragonfly on it. Some more mugs, which I will definitely put Underglaze in the words this time. That's about it for now, and thank you for watching.